No image could ever capture the life-changing events, the world-changing events of the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus. But I offer this symbol, this greatly inadequate symbol, hoping that this door might help us think just a little bit differently about the incomprehensibly wonderful gift of Jesus and the wonders we celebrate on this day we call Easter. Now, to back up, as is true now, at the time of Jesus, there were many people for whom life felt like they were facing a door that had been slammed in their faces and locked from the outside, a door for which they had no key. The oppression they knew, sickness, poverty, the hatred they received, their crippling anxiety, perhaps, their despair, their overwhelming grief. Now, Mary, the disciples of Jesus, and all of his followers had found in Jesus a reason to hope. And the values he invited them to, the kingdom he proclaimed, opened for them the door to a life of joy and meaning greater than they could have ever imagined. For the outcast and the marginalized, he opened the door to a world of dignity. For those despairing and frightened, he opened the door to hope. And all people of goodness found in Jesus someone whose values were worth their lives. And though, many things on the outside might remain the same, they had somehow stepped through to a new world of meaning. There was a joy inside that they had never known before they met this Jesus. And then the awful and heartbreaking crucifixion of their beloved Jesus. And it was as if all had been slammed in their faces. Then what? How do we picture the followers of Jesus after that? We've seen countless images of the crucifixion, paintings and statues and movies and stations of the cross. We probably all have images of what all of that looked like. But I don't think we usually think much of what it must have been like for those followers of Jesus after his crucifixion. How awful it must have been for them to try to go on with their lives. Oh my gosh. Sometimes I bet they wondered if they even wanted to. I picture Peter coming to the tomb and standing outside and just pounding on the stone that covered the entrance to the tomb. It was just awful beyond words. I don't even really want to try to imagine Mary. I mean, my goodness, this was their boy, her boy they were killing, her beloved son they were crucifying, and she couldn't stop them. I see Mary unable to sleep after that. Maybe for a moment, picturing again her beloved son, maybe as she cradled him in her arms, or as they would sing together as he got older, then suddenly she'd be visited again by that gut-wrenching, awful image of him hanging on the cross. There it was again, that nauseating feeling that wrenched her stomach. And then maybe after not being able to sleep, she realizes she hadn't eaten much for days, so she gets up, tries to eat something, but it just tasted like sawdust, and just the first bite of food made her cry again. And how many of those disciples of Jesus wondered why they had let themselves get their hopes up? Does evil win? Is it worth it to try to love? With the doors slammed in their faces, why care? Why try? Why go on? It's just painful to imagine, isn't it? And now, to this day, what did that first Easter look like? How do you picture that? I don't know. I don't know what that first Easter looked like when Jesus rose from the tomb and came forth to new life. Somehow, the stone had been rolled away, and Jesus stepped forth into this world in a resurrected body. I don't know what that looked like, but I don't need to, because I do know what it looked like for those first disciples, and I do know what Easter looks like for us. For the disciples, for each of us, Easter looks like this. It might not seem like much, but it's everything. As far as I can tell, every resurrection experience since the resurrection of Jesus looks like that. You see, Easter doesn't bowl anybody over. God never forces us to believe. Easter invites us to choose to trust the sometimes difficult to believe gift of faith, to step forth and trust that love does win, to choose to act on the side of hope and goodness. For us, Easter is that step of choosing to live, trusting that there is more than the door that had just been slammed in our faces right then. And when Mary and the other women went with broken hearts to that tomb that first Easter morning, I don't know what they expected to find, but what they did find was that the stone had been rolled away. And the angel told them that he had been raised and they were to go tell the other disciples. I imagine them wanting to believe it, but finding it so hard to do so. I mean, it's just too much to take in. But for them, I think their Easter looked like this. They chose to believe, to trust, and they made those first steps towards the other disciples to tell them the news. And those disciples, when they get the news, I think they too must have wanted to believe, but again, how could they? And yet, we hear today that they made that step. They stepped towards the tomb, and then they started running until they were running their hearts out to get to the empty tomb. It is Easter. And the call comes for us, each of us, to believe, to step out. And that call also empowers us to make that step. Now, if these days are tough, hopefully there will be a day for you when you can again run with joy. But that always begins with the first step. I can't convince anyone of Easter. I won't try. I can't prove that there's a God in this world that Jesus is alive among us now. But I will tell you, the stone has been rolled away, and that you and I are always free to step out in here. And I tell you with all my heart that I have met this Jesus now alive in this world. Because I've met him. But each of us will only experience Easter when we take that first step, maybe in here, or with our feet until in here catches up with our bodies. Yes, we will all have times when the doors get slammed in our faces. It'll happen again. But in the resurrection of Jesus, ultimately the doors have been opened, and that changes everything for us. All of us who have been touched by death can trust that our loved ones have stepped forth into the life beyond what we can see. Those who have been victims of others' selfish and sometimes horrible choices, I'm so sorry. But nothing and no one can take away the dignity that is yours. And you deserve to step forward through life with your head held high. And no matter how badly any of us have messed up, we are more than our sin. Jesus would tell us that. And we can begin again to love now. And all who are this day suffering from anxiety or depression or even despair, for whom life feels flat and without joy, you have it in you. Even if it's with the help of others helping carry you, to take that step forward, because it's in you to do so. One day you will run again. It is Easter. The stone has been rolled away from the tomb, and Jesus stepped out. And I believe with all my heart that the stones have been rolled away from the doors of our tombs. The door has been opened for us. And if you and I want to know Easter, if we want to know resurrection, it will look like this. Always this. Blessed Easter.